This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. Eduardinho Hearn, you're a punctual guy, mate. That's bang on 4:30.
Pretty good. You know why? Because I didn't have a show last week. I'm bored out of me tits, to be honest with you. Like that was so brutal, Times Square and Riyadh, and I was like Monday, Tuesday, a little bit out of the game. Wednesday, found myself watching the DAZN show on Saturday night from Nottingham.
Very good fight, I must say.
It was good. Yeah, enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
I'm always a little bit baffled because it was you who initially messaged me this morning, and I thought, oh my God, right, that means Edward really
No,
wants that.
let's just have it right. Uh, Last week.
Yeah.
You threw your toys out the pram. Well, you didn't, but you do this mopey little thing where you go, "Oh, saw you doing a few Zooms with Ring and Coogan. Any chance of a little bit of time with Charlie Parsons?" I'm like, and then I actually thought to myself, I'm not at the workout tonight. So I thought what I'd do is I would do Coogan, I would do Parsons, possibly Ring Magazine. And then I have just a mental week coming up. Wednesday, we've got Fabio Wardley, Justice Honey press conference at 1 o'clock at Portman Road. 6 p.m., Johnny Fisher against Dave Allen for the big Copper Boss show this Saturday. Then head to New York for the July 12th presser with Shakur Stevenson on Thursday. Then fly back to London for the fight. So this is what I do. And I've got to be honest with you, I don't feel right in myself unless I'm grafting my bollocks off. So when I saw that schedule this week, I won't lie, it gave me a little twinge.
I was going to say, do you get a little bit horny for the game?
Actually, yeah, I mean, twinge was a better word, I think, because when you said that, sort of gave me the ick, to be honest with you. But
It's good that we're good that the ick don't really matter, does it, Edward?
no, but I love it. I love it. I love it when I look at a schedule and go, that's disgusting. I don't know why, but I just think, and I'm buzzing. So yeah, good kip tonight, and then we're just rocking and rolling for a big week, a massive night at the Copper Box. Can't wait. Atmosphere is going to be absolutely mental.
Well, let's go straight into that. I remember being in Australia at the start of the year with yourselves and Johnny, and we'd just be plodding along on the runs in the morning, and the big conversation was, well, do we go straight back into this rematch? I remember yourself and Johnny being
Yeah,
pretty.
I just before you do that, I don't know where the wee bit come from because you said we
You
were running,
no,
which we
we
were.
were
You're like,
plodding.
we go back in a rematch.
We
Obviously,
No, as in
I
you and Johnny, Edward, not me. I'm
well,
not involved in, obviously.
well, maybe if you should, yeah, the big conversation was, do you guys go straight back into the rematch rather
It
than
wasn't
we?
me instigating.
Because to be fair, I'm making the fight and paying for it. Johnny's the one going in there and doing the business. I don't know where that you came into the royal we, but anyway, yeah, go on.
And the decision was to go straight into the
Yeah.
rematch. We're now a matter of days away. Johnny seems bang up for it. He almost seems to kind of know where he went wrong, or at least think so. And Dave Allen's adamant that more of the same, coming in good in shape, will be the best version. How do you see it now, a week out? Not even that.
I think it's, I mean, firstly, the first fight was brilliant, right? It was so dramatic. You remember, we were in Riyadh, it was the Fury Usyk card, it was the first fight of the night. So there was very few people in, still built into a great atmosphere. But if that particular fight was at the Copper Box, it would have been like one of the real memorable London fights. I think you're going to get the same drama on Saturday. The questions are, has Johnny learnt enough from the first fight to improve and do a better job on Dave Allen? Dave Allen's confidence will be off the scale. He will think to himself, I dropped him in the first fight. I can land much cleaner shots than that. I'm fitter this time. What is the mental demons of that first fight for Johnny? Because he's never experienced anything like that before. Johnny seems to have removed himself from the madness of Essex and social media and all that kind of stuff. And it's just the reality is no one has a clue what is going to happen on Saturday. And that's when you get the best fight. So two great blokes. Obviously, we're funking for Johnny, and I believe he's going to do the business. But Dave Allen, Jamie Moore, all of them, they are coming really confident on Saturday. And it's a really big fight for both men's career. I mean, Dave's kind of free rolling at this stage in his career, I feel. Um, and Johnny, you got to admire the balls are going straight back in. He didn't have to do it. We spoke when Johnny and the team were considering what he was going to do, and he was adamant that he'd take the rematch. And I just believe, in these fights that are close, say controversial, but some people think you've lost. If you believe you can win that rematch and you believe you're going to levels above that, you've got to make the rematch. And the rematch is the big fight. So I was really pleased when they did it. If they would have turned around and gone, we want one more, I would have said, fair enough, but I would have been a bit gutted, to be honest with you, because I think Johnny should be beating Dave Allen. And I hope that the experience that he's gained from the first fight will enable him to do that well on Saturday.
On the topic of that, Dave's always been someone where you can kind of throw him into any environment, no matter where he is, no matter what he's doing, and he will either thrive or maybe not so much as we've seen in the past. The Fraser Clark fight, maybe one more notably of recent. However, Johnny is someone that, bar the few shows at the start of his career behind closed doors and COVID, has always thrived in that whole
Mm.
Romford Ball atmosphere. Now it's even being labelled as the Copper Bosh. It will be packed full of Johnny Fisher fans. The atmosphere was good in Saudi Arabia when he fought last time, but it is going to be a different notch come Saturday night. Is that another one of the reasons why you think Johnny will be able to pull through?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, firstly, you've got to be really disciplined in this fight. You've got to be really focused. So the last thing you want to do is go out there. I mean, do you remember when he fought Babbage?
Mm.
It was all over in 1 minute. He smashed him to pieces. We had, I think, 6,000 in there that night. You got the full, there's like 100 tickets left for Saturday. You can have the full 7,000 or whatever it is. It will be absolutely wild. You've got to be able to control your emotions. Going into that fight in Saudi, I said to him, Johnny, make sure you don't load up early and do your beans. And he came out, boom, boom, and that's just all that was his experience, right? Those fights that you have to go through. It's like Conor Benn the other week. Those wars where you have to go into the trenches and come out the other side. Those fights are so valuable to you, and it's just if you can use the experience positively, it'll put you in great stead. Now, also, he got hurt in that fight, and he's never been hurt before. As a heavyweight, does that make you a little bit more cautious? Maybe a little bit gun shy at times? The reality is Johnny was winning the fight comfortably till he got caught. So I think it's going to be a brilliant fight. I mean, great night of boxing. You got George Liddard in a British title eliminator, really good fight. Kieran Conway fighting for the British middleweight title. Those two have agreed a deal to fight each other if they both win. And that would be a huge fight for George Liddard. Jimmy Sains sold mega tickets, first title shot, Southern Area title. Really good fight as well. John Hedges now fighting for the English Cruiserweight title, first fight with Ricky Hatton. Shannon Ryan returning to the card. Laylee Buttigieg sold 400 tickets in 2 weeks or something like that. Taylor Bevan bringing a huge crowd up from Southampton as well. Really good night of boxing and a brilliant main event. Like I think you're going to get a lot of drama in this fight.
Edward, let's talk a little bit about Times Square and everything because it felt like a bit of a mad week. I suppose, firstly, I want to talk a little bit about Ryan Garcia because I remember in the build up of the fight, we spoke about how it was so good that he was just him again. In seeing him in the post-fight press conference and his performance on the night, to me, it showed he's come a long way as a person to overcome the mental turmoil. But I kind of doubt that he's really ready to be back in the ring and fighting. What do you think, Eddie?
I mean, I was really excited to see him fight again because obviously I was around him for the Devin Haney fight and I actually couldn't believe he fought, to be honest with you. Like, I couldn't believe he made it to the ring. And when I saw him in the build up to this fight and I saw him on fight week, I was really pleased to see Ryan Garcia back, fresh faced, speaking well. And I actually really believed that he was going to put a scintillating performance on. And I did say in the build up that those kind of environments can really pass you by. You know, like it's like behind closed doors. All of a sudden, you go in there, you could hear Mike Tyson shouting things out. You could hear Shakur, you could hear Richardson Hitchens, Devin Haney towards the end, you know? Like, but you've got to be more professional than that. And I don't know, because Derek James was saying all the right things in the corner. He was giving him a rollicking. It wasn't like he wasn't letting him know as well. And it just wasn't there. You know, was it that he got hurt by Rowley early and he didn't fancy it? I don't think so. I don't think he's that kind of fighter. But I think what you just said there is the first time I've really thought about that or heard that. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was too early for him to return after everything he's been through. I mean, the reality is, and this is a reality of life, no one really knows what people are going through.
Mm.
But with him in the public domain, which a lot of his life is, we do know a little bit, but we don't know the depths that he was in. And it was probably pretty deep, to be honest. So, you know, and that was going on till what, I don't know. The fight was in April. That was going on till end of last year, really. So I don't know. Look, props to Rowley as well. I think everyone's, quick to kind of say, oh, Ryan weren't himself. And I think he'll be very, very underwhelmed with his performance, Ryan, as a lot of people were. And the same with Devin Haney. But that rematch right now is dead in the water for now. But I still think it can be a fight, but it's not the same size as it was. And I think both those guys should fight again because Devin just didn't look himself either. And I think that's semi-understandable. I mean, don't forget, Devin took a shellacking in a Ryan Garcia fight, and Ryan Garcia did test positive, and that fight was the result was overturned. But mentally and emotionally for Devin, that was a tough period, and
So you were on the jet with His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh afterwards. I imagine kind of before you lot got to Kip or whatever, you would have sat around and maybe just spoke more casually, almost like what happened that night. What was His Excellency's thoughts? Obviously, that fight was signed to do the rematch. I can't imagine he was best pleased, but what was the sort of general consensus when you spoke to the sort of wider teams involved?
I think he was sort of overjoyed with the night and the experience. I mean, it was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think we'll ever see that again. But he was disappointed like everybody with the cards. I will say, I've promoted, I don't know, 500 shows, right? Sometimes you build a card and you go, this is going to be unbelievable. This and you're kind of you get what you there's one fight left on the night and you're thinking, this just hasn't gelled at all. No one was really looking at those three fights saying they're going to be stinkers. No one,
Mm.
right? Just, and I thought Oscar's rant was really interesting, you know, about Canelo Skull, even about his own fighter, Ryan, Devin, kind of saying, guys, you're making an absolute fortune. You've got to entertain. And I've never really looked at it like that because I think it's very difficult for a promoter to talk to a fighter and say, oi, you got to entertain, mate. But Oscar is a fighter himself, and he was very entertaining. So I guess he's got a little bit more credibility to say things like that to the fighters than I have. But I think he's right. And that goes for Canelo as well. I never really would never criticize Canelo. I think Skull really didn't come to fight. But at some point, you have to say to yourself, you're getting paid an absolute fortune here, mate. You might want to entertain these people and the geezer that's paying for it.
Quickly before I move on, because there are a few other things I want to discuss before I lose you, but just on the topic of Canelo, I remember listening to it and I've seen the punch landed after the fight, which doesn't ever really mean too much, but Canelo only outlanded William Skull by one. Don't get me wrong, he didn't come in to fight. He boxed very Cuban, amateur, jab and move, whatever. The commentary weren't giving him load of credit until they went down to the ringside sort of judges, where a few of the people that were scoring it for the zone actually had it quite close. I don't. At what point do you think, okay, it was boring the way William Skull boxed, but like this is Canelo Alvarez, like you have to kind of be doing a little bit more. Because I arguably think if that weren't Canelo in there, we could have gone a little bit different score.
I thought the fight was close.
Yeah, so
I
did
mean, I had Canelo winning the fight. I thought 115, 113, 116, 112.
I.
And I've got to be honest with you, after about 8 rounds or something like that, 7 rounds, Chris Mannix, or I think it was Mannix, had Canelo winning every round.
That was what I was saying.
It came up on the TV on the front row, and Crawford was 2 down from me, and I went, how you got it? And he went, I've got Skull winning easy. Now, towards the end, he just didn't do enough, and Canelo just nicked rounds. But like, it was a close fight. So, at the end of the day, one of the scorecards was absolutely obscene.
Yeah.
But 115, 113 was very fair, really. And 116, 112, yeah, 8-4, 7-5. That's the kind of fight that I saw. And Skull, it was a bizarre, like it was different. If you watch Devin's fight, Devin was fighting off the back foot, but moving so fast. Skull was, it had a skillful element to it. And a lot of the time, Canelo would just load up with shots, wouldn't really land too much. And Skull would jab, jab, and he did exchange when Canelo threw. So I don't blame William Skull. I mean, I don't think he's going to get a job again. No, seriously. I mean, like
If you're a broadcaster, you don't
that's
want to
that's
watch
the
that.
that's the problem. I mean, look, obviously he's going to fight again, but I'm just giving you the reality of the situation. No promoter on a big, he's going to say, "Yeah, let's get Williams going." But he had a tactic, and the reality is, maybe the tactic wasn't ridiculous. Maybe if it was executed a little bit more positively, maybe he could have nicked, the decision or a split decision, or I don't know. But it was hard to watch.
Edward, off the back of, I suppose, Ben Eubank, I always thought, how can a fighter go up 2 weight divisions and almost not, well, I suppose, yeah, make it look comfortable? There aren't loads in history where it's happened at the sort of elite level. Crawford will be trying to do that against Canelo. Part of me, in my mind, until I saw the Canelo Skull fight, didn't give Crawford much of a chance. But then you kind of weigh up that massive week. Where's your head at now for that fight?
Again, like you, going into that fight, I always give Crawford a chance. I mean, one, he's an outstanding fighter. Two, he has a lot of self-belief, which I think in a fight like that, you really need. I think he'll be licking his lips after that fight and that performance. I mean, Canelo is definitely getting older. He hates fighters that move. Dare I say, Crawford's probably got to make it a little bit boring in there, and he's got to move. He'll exchange a lot more than Skull. I still just favour Canelo purely because of the size. I think when you move up 2 divisions, it's always difficult, but he can do it, and it's going to be a big fight. And there's part of me kind of looking at Canelo on that night, thinking, wouldn't be surprised if he jacked it in. Oh, if there's too much money in the Canelo fight for him, in the Crawford fight for him to turn down. But I kind of, you know, I really admire Canelo because he's absolutely caked, right? And he still trains his nuts off, works, but I wonder whether subconsciously that flame is dwindling, And maybe the Crawford fight is what he needs to see that back, but I'm not so sure. Might be tremendous timing for Terence Crawford, this.
Um, Chris Eubank Jr., Diary of a CEO. Have you watched it? You must have watched it.
I haven't. I did an interview with Coogan, and he asked me, and it was 1 hour 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't watch the whole thing. But as you'd expect, as it always happens, whenever there's something where he's had a dig or whatever it is, it gets pinged to me straight away. And yeah, when someone said, "Oh my God, have you seen Eubank on Diary of a CEO?" And I was like, Oh God, what's he said now?
I wasn't
And
that.
obviously, most of it was no. I mean, he called me dangerous. I was actually I was quite pleased with that. And then there was obviously the Frank Smith stuff as well. Um, but yeah, look, he's doing what anyone would do in his position after a massive fight and a massive win, doing all the rounds, getting some good profile and good exposure, telling his story, and yeah, I mean. I, Frank Smith is the straightest bloke you'll ever meet, right? You know Frank. I mean, he is like, I think dangerous is probably the worst word you could use to describe Frank Smith. Um, he, you have to understand with Frank, like he has zero emotion around boxing. So did he want Conor Ben to win? Yeah, because he works with Matchroom and he's known Connor a long time. Was he sitting there praying for Eubank's demise? Don't be so ridiculous. Frank hasn't got that in him. You know, me, I'd be more likely to be doing that. But Frank is, and to think that we would spend our time, particularly Frank Smith, trying to derail the career of Chris Eubank Jr. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So
Um,
sort of something I wanted to pick up on that regarding Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith of Matchroom Boxing. Eubank Jr. Alleged that they attempted to proceed with a fight against Conor Benn despite the drugs test, blah, blah, blah. He emphasized that his choice to join Boxer was influenced by a desire to work with promoters he perceives as more ethical and supportive of fighters' interests.
I mean, you know, I think our track record says it all. But to be honest with you, with the reality is we've never really got on with Eubank. Like, and before the Ben fight, we had blimey. I mean, Frank Smith was leading all conversations to sign Chris Eubank Jr. He'd meet with Mira, he'd meet with Napa. These are the people that are making the decisions. And we just couldn't get a deal done.
What made me laugh, not made me laugh, because it's quite a I suppose I did laugh to an extent, but that's because I know you guys. But Eubank Jr. said he'd spend more and more Christmas with him and slowly realised he was becoming more like you.
Frank's nothing like me. Nothing like me. And Frank would never try and derail the career of his biggest Frank doesn't have arch rivals and nemesis. He's just not, he's got no interest. I mean, managers in the boxing world call Frank Smith Spreadsheet Frank because all he cares about is running the show, the numbers, and just keeping away from drama. I'm that guy. I'm the guy who's all emotion. I'm the guy whose head falls off. I'm the guy who's like super passionate and super emotional about the fight and the event and but Frank's totally different. So I thought the comments were very harsh. And look, I think this goes back to the sort of scumbag stuff, really. I mean, the last thing that you could ever call Frank Smith is a scumbag. Me, I think it's a bit harsh, but yeah, you know. I mean, Warren, like, he didn't like it, but that did affect Frank, and I think he. But look, it's bordering on the personal side. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like on that stuff, it's one. I guess Frank's either going to talk about it this week or he's not going to talk about it this week. And if it was me and I was in his position, I'd just be swerving it, and I'd be saying, I don't talk about stuff like that. You know, disappointing comments, but we are where we are.
Just two quick more ones on that fight as a whole. Chris Eubank Jr. maintained that there was no payment for Senior. Senior was always going to be there. The only thing that he wanted was that sort of short interlude when they were both up on the stage. Um, can you give us any different? We kind of felt on the night, if I'm honest, everything kind of suggested that maybe Eubank Senior was paid.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like I said on the night, let's keep the romance of it. And I hope that genuinely it's brought them closer together. And I think it probably has. However, he got there. I bet their relationship's in a better place now than it was, 3 weeks ago. So that has to be great for them. And I said going into the fight, Senior should be incredibly proud of Junior for, getting this fight together. And don't forget as well, Senior always controlled Junior, right? In all business, he was the leader. And in that deal that was made for Eubank, the person driving the deal was Junior. When I went into a meeting with His Excellency and Dr. Rakan in his house, I was there, Ben Shalom was there, and Chris Eubank Jr. was there. And Chris Eubank Jr. was leading all negotiations from his side. Right? I mean, I was actually half cringing at some of the things he was saying, but he done a great job. He got paid. So he did that. So, Senior should be respecting what he did to get it, and more importantly, his performance on the night. So, however he got there, it's great that, and I'm sure their relationship is in a much better position now.
The rematch, I mean, it feels like a no-brainer, especially after what happened with Ryan Garcia. It just depends, I suppose, if Eubank can make 160 again. Your whole thoughts on that whole thing? He seems to claim it's unethical making that weight anymore. But me being there, I have to say, probably the best night I've ever covered in boxing. The atmosphere when Senior walked in was absolutely electric. All my mates won't stop speaking to me about
Yeah.
it. They're never on me like this when it comes to boxing.
Lick him up.
Huh?
Lick him up.
Come up, Rastafari.
I've
Uh,
actually heard someone sent me a song the other day of a remix of Rastafari.
a little
Yeah.
house remix.
Yeah.
It's got to be the
It was
rematch.
amazing. It was amazing. Like, we signed a contract, a two-fight deal on the same terms. We'll see what happens.
Cool. Edward, very quickly, MVP. We've seen Savannah Marshall's gone there now. Chantel Cameron's gone there. Are they just doing this amicable business that you were talking about a couple of weeks ago when Ellie Scottney went over there and just, I don't know, taking up a lot of the women's fighters?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's great for women's boxing. I mean, I think, we've seen women's boxing go like this. I mean, today we signed what I believe is the best young fighter I've ever seen in Tier 8. And I think, not too far from your neck of the woods either, down in Bristol.
Ah,
Um, just a tremendous talent. He's got to work for the promotional company. I mean, obviously, Chantel Cameron was with Queensbury. Savannah Marshall was with Boxer. Maybe they didn't have anything for him. And I mean, with Ellie Scottney, we had rights to match. They made her a great offer, and we said, we don't want to match, and we think it's a brilliant opportunity for you, Ellie, and it is. So great for them. We've also done a deal ourselves with MVP for Beatrice Ferreira to headline a DAZN card on an MVP show, but she's a matchroom fighter, which works fantastically well for us and for MVP because they get one of the best fighters in the world for one night only. And, it works. So I think anything that's going to give opportunities to the female side of the sport is fantastic. Does it work commercially? Only time will tell.
Edward, finally from me, I am hosting a Misfits presser on Wednesday, the weigh-in
Oh, good.
Friday. I'm doing the show, no, the weigh-in Thursday, the show Friday, and then small talk Saturday. What's your word of wisdom? Big week for the boy.
Oh, it's a massive week. I mean, Misfits, I kind of feel like you should keep the two separate. I don't think Misfits presenters, commentators should also be doing
I'll give it
the
a
real boxing. But you're not really doing the real boxing. You're just doing something mental show after the boxing, which I don't even know how it's been commissioned,
where we
if I'm
at.
honest. Yeah. So I'll see you.
Saturday.
Oh, I won't see you at the Wardley Honey or the Johnny Fisher presser, eh?
Yeah, We're
Big
hosting,
time now, mate.
we're hosting the Misfits presser. You got Oscar Bevis's presence.
Stop it. All
Edward,
right. Well, I'll see you Saturday, and I'll see everybody live on the zone.
see you that Saturday, geezer. Thank you as always for your time. Cheers, mate.